All right, so Ramit, thank you very much for the introduction. And yeah, well, hello and welcome to the SAP Student Day 2021. We are really excited to have you here, and we hope that we have created an interesting day for you, full of sessions about technology, our solutions you might already know from your school or university, and how it is to work at SAP as a working student or graduate. If you want to register for additional sessions during the day, please do so. I will put the link in a minute in the chat so that you can find again where you can register. We will record all the sessions as just mentioned and make them available afterwards. To stay informed about what we offer for you, please subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, YouTube, and so on. Details at the end of the session and every session today. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Andre Wiener, and I'm part of the global SAP University Alliances team and responsible for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I'm based in the SAP office in beautiful Berlin. We had the idea to this student day as we normally welcome student groups at all times at our locations, and we really enjoy the conversation and exchange with you. Due to COVID, which we are all tired of, I'm pretty sure about that, we still can't do it in person, but we hope that this virtual format will almost be as good as seeing each other in person. We hope to welcome you back at our locations very soon. If you have any questions while our keynote speaker, Sebastian Steinhäuser, who is the Chief Strategy Officer of SAP, presents, please write your question in the chat as just explained. If you don't feel comfortable doing it in English, you can also do it in German and we will translate it. To kick off the interaction, I would like to ask all of you to put the city or town where you are at the moment in the chat so that we can see how national, international we are today. I would like to wish you and all the speakers an inspiring and interesting day, and thank my dear colleagues for taking the time today. So without further delay, I would like to hand it over to Sebastian. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, and super excited to be here with all of you today. I have to say that's the hour in my week I've been most looking forward to. So as already introduced, I'm Sebastian. I'm 36 years old. I actually just joined SAP myself a bit over 1 year ago, so I hope I can relate to many of you. And what I really want to talk about with you today is why I joined SAP, because of my deep belief in our vision and where we are going with the company. And of course, then answer any questions you have right now or during the course of the session. But maybe before I start with my presentation, I would love to ask you some questions. I think you're already all using the chat, so let's wait. So, I mean, let's try this out. So first of all, I mean, looking at this picture, is this style ever becoming cool again? Yes or no? I like that. So let's see. So I guess I might have to check my wardrobe or rather not. So I guess it's split. So maybe now that this is working, what's the first word that's coming to mind when you hear SAP? Okay, that's really good. I like that. And I will talk about innovation, ERP, maybe not so much about Waldorf. I actually live in Munich with my family, but I'm in Waldorf today and answer many of these questions and then also come back to that in the Q&A. So maybe one more question. How many of the world's largest 100 companies run on SAP software? Take a guess, 0 to 100. Pretty close, so it's actually not 100. We are working on the very last one to close. So it's actually 99, and 85 of them are running our ERP core software system. So pretty, I'd say pretty extensive. Maybe another question. So how much of the world's commerce spend, so e-commerce spend, is transacted via SAP systems? Give me a number. So correct answer is, and I have to say, I'm always impressed when I read this number myself. It's 580 billion US dollars in 2020. That's actually 87% of global commerce spend. And it's actually more than Amazon and eBay combined. So very last question from my side. Have you ever used an SAP software? Yes or no? So I'd say 50-50, yes or no. I think I'd guess the correct answer, at least here in Germany, for most of you is yes, because the Corona Warn app, that's an SAP co-developed product, I think has far over 37 million downloads by now. And I'd assume most of you have used SAP and the Corona Warn app. So maybe that gives you a bit of an impression of, you know, the reach and scale of SAP. And really, I mean, we are the largest enterprise software company in the world. We invented the category of ERP almost 50 years ago. And if I had to explain what ERP is, I tried to explain that recently to my daughter, who's 7 years old. I'd say it's really the nervous system on that our economy is running, be it hospitals, be it governments, be it the largest or smallest companies in the world. Many of them run on SAP software. And that's, I think, why our purpose that we've had for a long time, help the world run better and improve people's lives, really hits home with me. Because quite literally, I think every day, over 1 billion people really interact with SAP systems that touches every aspect of our lives. But what makes me, I think, even more excited and is more of the reason I joined SAP, building on this very, very strong position we have, and on this great purpose, is how we can really help our customers tackle the biggest challenge we have in the world right now. And if I talk now, it's Q4 for us, that's our most important quarter. I think there are 3 common themes that really come up for us in customer conversations, and I'm getting many of these right now. So the first theme that's always coming up is business transformation. It's not only digital transformation, it's really how our customers can transform their businesses. Think of a 150-year-old manufacturing company in Germany that now moves from selling machines to selling IoT-enabled services. To do that, you need to really rewire the entire company down to how do I actually build something like that. The second challenge I'm hearing very, very often is we are in a global world, and I think every day you can now read in the newspaper about global supply chain challenges, supply chain disruptions, microchip shortages, shipping prices for containers increased by, I think, 10x by now. So that's a challenge that's really in the minds of almost all of our customers. And then the third one, and the most important one to me, is sustainability. So I think we all agree this is the decade to act if we still want to hit the 1.5-degree target to limit global warming. And I can see in every customer conversation I'm having, up to the board level, companies are ready to act. And that's why we have set our vision. And that's, to me, really the most exciting thing about SAP. So our vision is to help every customer to become more intelligent, networked, and sustainable. And I think that's something only SAP can do to that actually scope. And let's really maybe go one by one quickly through what I mean with intelligent, networked, and sustainable. So starting off with intelligent. I mean, of course, we are SAP, we are a software company, we have intelligent technologies that are built on our platform. Take, for example, AI. Faye, our head of AI, will talk later to you about what we are doing there. We have hundreds of people building AI use cases. But I think for us at SAP, technologies is just the start. What we really want to do is use intelligent technologies to then create intelligent systems, applications. So we have software applications that touch every aspect of a company: finance, supply chain, HR, procurement. And we really want to bring intelligence into all of these functions, be it recruiting better, people like you, be it making supply chains more resilient and predictive. But then again, an intelligent application only typically touches one function. The real level where I think SAP is unique is intelligent processes. So how can our customers with us transform entire business processes end to end that typically touch across multiple functions, from HR to procurement to supply chain, manufacturing, sales, that's really the power of SAP. Leaning on the experience we have working with 400,000 customers across 25 industries, pretty much knowing what are the best practices and benchmarks for each of these industries. And I think the two things that really excite me most, that we did this year, first, we've made a big move into business process intelligence. We've acquired a company called Signavio, where we really use all of this data, all of this knowledge to give our customers the best practices for their industry. And then second, and that's really the major transformation we are going through with our customers right now, we have launched an offer that we call Rise with SAP. And this offer is really tailored at bringing all of this experience, all of our applications, our platform and technologies to our customers to help them transform their business processes in the cloud. Like literally taking them by the hand and give an end-to-end service that is, I think, fully unique in the world to help our customers tackle their business transformation challenges. But that's only the first step of our vision. The second step of our vision is networking our customers across the globe. We talked about supply chain disruptions. Just think about the automotive industry right now. Microchip shortages. I just talked to a customer, an automotive supplier, who told me they only this year they will lose probably 2 billion euros from supply chain shortages, especially in the microchip area. So what we are doing, SAP is already running the biggest business network in the world. Over 5 million companies are in that, connecting buyers, suppliers, logistics companies, everyone across global value chains to give visibility to better react to such disruptions. And I think a great example, so we've launched an automotive alliance for a specific automotive network called Catena X. And there we are really bringing together all the biggest players in the automotive industry, the car manufacturers, their suppliers, the suppliers of their suppliers, raw material suppliers, logistics companies, together with many partners to help them get visibility into their supply chain intelligence, but also tackle the challenge of sustainability. And that takes me to the third part of our vision, creating a sustainable world. And I would really like to take a minute more on this one, because that makes me super passionate every day. The impact we can help our customers to have on tackling the challenge of creating a world with zero emissions, zero waste, and zero inequality. So to stay quickly with this automotive example, if you just think of it, so an automotive OEM, one of the car manufacturers, right now has a major challenge. So, okay, we are moving to e-cars, so we get rid of the emissions that are produced by using the car. So now the full focus is on emissions from producing the car. So out of the 7 tons roughly, depends on the car that you have that you create by building a car, only 10% or less of these emissions are created by the actual automotive manufacturer. Over 90% of the emissions are created in the whole network of suppliers, sub-suppliers, sub-sub-suppliers, raw material suppliers, logistics companies. Now, the challenge is really, if you want to change the CO2 footprint of a car, you need to have visibility across this entire network down to the raw material, because by far the lion's share of these 7 tons come from aluminum, steel, and how that is produced. You have to get the transparency, and then you have to decide, okay, how do I now take action by maybe shifting a steel supplier? That is removed 3, 4, 5 steps for me as the car manufacturer. And that's, I think, a challenge only we can help solve. But we are not only helping to solve the emissions challenge. I think the topic of inequality is one very near and dear to my heart and to us as SAP as well. We are running the biggest HR software in the world, and we are really looking at every step. How can we help people in HR departments to make better decisions on things like equal pay, gender equality, and many things like that. So there's a whole portfolio of solutions SAP is building that I think is unique in the world to help companies really move to a more sustainable world. So that, in a nutshell, is our vision. So our vision is help our customers become more intelligent, more networked, and more sustainable. So, and I told you, I tell you the reason why I joined SAP, and it's literally that. That's what makes me excited about SAP, because I believe with the transformation we started a bit over a year ago to move to that world, we can create a unique impact as SAP, as the largest software company in the world, to really change the world for the better and improve how the world runs. But now, and I think I'll be very honest in my pitch here, technology is the smallest piece. Yes, we are a technology company, like many of you said. We are a software company. But actually, to me, technology is only maybe the smallest ingredient to success. The biggest ingredient in technology and in the software industry is actually all of you. So we need you as the next generation of software developers, of salespeople, of across all functions, marketers, HR talents, to really make this vision that I fundamentally believe in, that our leadership team fundamentally believes in, that we structure the whole company to go after, to turn that into a reality. I full-heartedly believe you are the ones who make SAP better for generations to come. And that's why I'm so excited to connect with all of you today, and to also mainly now focus on your questions. So that's why I try to also keep myself short. But before I stop and hand it over to Q&A, one short commercial block again. So we'd really love that you follow our talent community, that you become part of our community. Like, we want our customers to become part of our network. We want all of you to become part of our talent network. So really, I think here are some, and Andre already mentioned them, really follow us, reach out to us. We are super excited to engage with each and every one of you. And with that, I'm through. I'm excited to kick this off. I think all of you are looking forward to a great program, and I'm open for any questions you might have. And I mean, literally any question.
Thanks, Sebastian, for the input. I think that was really helpful. And I put in parallel some links to some of the topics you mentioned in the chat. So the Catena X example. Also, you touched on sustainability. So if you're interested, there's a session later on with Daniel Schmid, our Chief Sustainability Officer. Feel free to register if you haven't done so. Also, Christian Boos will talk about our solutions. So take a look if you haven't done yet and register. Okay. Maybe I start with some of the questions we have in the chat. So the first question which came was, will all the sessions today be recorded? Yes, they will. So that's easy to answer. The second one is, could you tell us about your working patch?
I assume that's what's working patch? Maybe help me here.
Maybe Maximilian, if you can clarify that, I would say a little. I would assume it's a little bit like how your regular workday looks like. So I don't know if that's something you can say.
Let me touch on two things. I mean, I'm happy to talk about my regular day, and I'll just take yesterday's day.
It's past Sebastian. So So how did you end up here at SAP?
Oh, I think that's a story I love to tell. So before joining SAP, I worked at a management consulting firm called the Boston Consulting Group for quite a while. And actually, one of the companies I worked with was SAP. And I worked with Christian Klein, our CEO, on giving input into the strategy of SAP going forward, exactly what we just talked about. And I have to say, I mean, first of all, the strategy really got me excited, like no other company I was working with before. And second, and I'll be very honest, I make my career choices also on the people I work with, and having a CEO who is 41 years old, who really believes in the potential of the company and really steers this transformation together with a super exciting, humble, and open leadership team going down from the board, but also to the executive management. I think that really got me excited. The culture, the direction. I think all of that fitted. And then literally the closing conversation was in his office over a piece of apple pie. And that apple pie was also really good, that he and his family baked at home. So that got me over the finish line.
Excellent. There are some kind of very operational questions regarding training outside of Germany and so on. So maybe I continue with one question we received up front. What would be your advice? Shall we, as young people, start our own business like the founder of SAP 50 years ago, or work at a large company like SAP? What would be your advice?
I don't think it's an either or, and actually maybe it's a well-hidden secret. The founders of SAP didn't found SAP as the first step in their career. They worked for a company that's called IBM, and really found, while working there, a business problem that they found so fascinating that they founded SAP to create the category of ERP software. So I would say, I don't think it's an exclusive. I think in the end, it's an individual choice. If you ask me, my advice would be, I don't think it hurts to really gain experience in a company like SAP, where you can really understand how do you develop software, especially if you want to found something that goes into the direction of software, how do you build software, how do you sell software, how do you get the value proposition right for software. So I would recommend, no matter what's your path, I fundamentally believe SAP is a great start into your career. But in the end, of course, I mean, if you're a young person with a great vision, go after it. There's also a path back to SAP. I think Gero Decker, the founder of Signavio, will talk later to you as well. I talk quickly about business process intelligence, who at a later stage in his career found his way to SAP. So I don't think there's a standard path, but I'm fully convinced SAP is a great starting point to your career, especially if you want to found a business also in software, maybe some point down the road.
Yeah, maybe to add, there will also be a slot later on by Alexa Gorman, who will talk about the different kind of entrepreneurship opportunities at SAP. So if you're interested in that part, register for that session and join the detailed session later on. There were some questions in the Q&A section. Which skills should students develop from your perspective? So what is needed to learn at university and school to be successful in the future and change the world to the better?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I need to think a second about this, but I think, so I'm personally not a big believer in the currency of the hard skill you learn at university. I think if I look at the traits I see people that are successful having, it's about, I mean, learning to be passionate about a topic, to use the time you have during your studies to really find out where's your passion. I mean, what's the thing that gets you up in the morning? Like SAP's vision gets me up in the morning, but I think it's something else for every one of you. So to really use this time, I remember, so I myself, I had the fortune to study at Stanford for a while. And it was such the most important thing I got out of this was really following very different interests and really finding out where's my passion in terms of where do I want to grow from a perspective of an industry, but also from a perspective of what do I want to be really good at? Is it developing software? Is it developing strategies? Like in my case, thinking about the 2, 3, 4, 5 or 10-year future of a company and how to turn that into a reality. So that would be my advice. Really use the time to find the thing you are most passionate about and then really go after it. Especially right after university, there's really time to experiment, to follow your passion, and then I think from there building a career.
Okay, next question. What role does SAP play in new ways of mobility apart from creating cars more sustainable?
That's I'd say so. I think there are multiple things, and by the way, we are also I think we've become the first company in Germany, or one of the first, to say we will also only use electric cars ourselves. I really like that pitch. I just got an electric car, but I think there are many ways. So we are collaborating, for example, on e-car charging. So that's a challenge, because if you think about e-car charging, yes, there's a hardware piece to it, but there's also a piece of it. I mean, how do you bill? How do you plan? How do you have an app that comes on your mobile phone and tells you where's the next the e-car charging station? So e-car charging is something we work on quite intensively with many companies around the globe, how to create the business model around it. I think we help many companies to organize the supply chain around. If you think e-cars are really fundamentally changing the supply chain of an automotive manufacturer, something like a battery that has not played a role is now a critical piece. So that ties back to what I talked about, our vision of a networked, supply chain future, where you can really reshuffle a supply chain fundamentally quite flexibly. So I think there are many points where we work on an e-mobility future that are even going beyond the things I could count here. But I think we play a really important piece in every part. One other example is, I mean, we are partnering with Siemens on PLM software. So even into the design of the car, we SAP has a relevance. So I think it's very comprehensive.
Okay. There's one more question in the Q&A tool. What is your plan to dust off the old SAP image out there and get people excited?
So I hope at least I don't come across dusty. I have to say I full-heartedly believe, I know ERP has a bit of an image that's a bit dusty, a bit German, a bit complex. I think ERP is, to me right now, the most exciting software category you can be in, because of its unique role in really being the nervous system of the economy. And I think that's something we will be very bold about this unique role that we can play with our systems and helping our customers transform their businesses. I think, honestly, there's nothing more exciting than talking to many of our customers right now about them telling us actually how SAP helps them to really tackle their most important challenges. And I think that's something we will talk more about to really make this vision very clear. And I get a lot of energy from it. So I hope all of you got some of that energy as well.
Maybe just to add, I mean, events like today, I mean, that's obviously also something we hope, which will hopefully create a different kind of image among yourself, and that you probably or hopefully get a better understanding on what different topics we cover. I mean, that SAP is not only the typical ERP company you might have heard from parents, friends, whoever. But we are offering a way more products and services. So I really hope events like today will help. I would also like to do another advertising for the slot later on by my manager, Katharina Schäfer. She will talk about the different kind of learning aspects and learning offerings we have, so that where you can learn more about SAP, how you can interact with SAP. So I think there are a lot of initiatives available directly for you as a student, also via your professors and teachers. So please use what is being out there, and by doing that, we hope that you get a different opinion about SAP than you might have heard from some other people. I would like to continue with some questions from the chat tool. So what is your opinion on open source? One key advantage of open source is the previously mentioned sustainability, reduction of e-waste, transparency, and agility. So what's your point on that?
So I think, look, I think there's no question about open source being a major playing a major role in software, and SAP is embracing open source fully. I mean, think about things like the Corona One app. And I think that's something, I mean, this spirit of a network company, I mean, we are also fully tapping into the network of open source developers globally on things on how to, from managing our infrastructure to building some of the most modern applications. For example, take AI. I mean, I think the value of AI we bring is leveraging mostly open source algorithms, open source software, and then putting them into the business context of our customers. That's, for example, when we talk about a technology like AI, we fully embrace open source. And I think that's the only right way to go. So we are very, very open in how we develop software. But then, of course, we want to use our unique knowledge to transform, to leverage what's available open source and create unique value for our customers in their specific industries for their specific use cases. And that's, of course, then something that we don't do fully open source, because there's a lot of, you know, proprietary knowledge, but also data from our customers going in. But net, I'm a huge proponent of open source, and also we as SAP are fully embracing open source.
Next question is, does SAP work in bioinformatics? So genomics, machine learning, computational biology, etc.
So I think pick your strength. I think SAP is really one, we have a super broad and exciting portfolio, but I think there are pieces then where we say, hey, that's something that really is for a specialty software provider to support. But I can only tell you, we have played a very, very strong role collaborating with biotech companies, especially companies like BioNTech, throughout the pandemic now, to help them. I mean, they do the R&D, but then when it comes to organizing the supply chain, the manufacturing, getting the raw materials in time, that's, I think, where SAP comes in. And that's where we played a unique role. And maybe tying it back to this topic of networks, we've created something that was called the Vaccine Collaboration Hub. So where we across companies and organizations helped organize how we distribute the vaccine. So I think we are very active in the biotech industry. We are very closely collaborating to make sure there's a seamless process from the basic R&D to then how to move into production, how to move into the supply chain, how to get the entire business process going. But clearly, there are also limits to, I think, what we can and want to do. And I think that's actually important, because if you get too defocused, you are in everything, but you are good at nothing. And to me, SAP is about focus on the business transformation and really, and I think that's something in my role that's very important to me, is being very open to partners. So partnering with the leading research software providers, partnering with the leading AI technology providers, partnering with all kinds of specialized leading companies in their specific domain to tie them into this end-to-end vision that we have to create an intelligent network and sustainable world.
Now, a little bit philosophical question. Where do you see the world and role of SAP in the next 10, 20, and 50 years?
That's a fun, I mean, we are just celebrating, I think, next year, our 50-year anniversary. And if I look at it, a lot has changed, right? We are working on some of the most exciting technologies. We are participating in research initiatives around quantum computing, fundamental AI research. So, but then there's a piece that is, I think, very stable over time. The heart of this company is help the world run better. It's helping the world run the most critical business processes in an efficient and in ever-changing, innovative way. So I think that piece will be stable 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. And I'm very, very confident with the direction we are going, with the transformation we have started. The role of SAP in the global economy will only become more important because of this unique breadth and vision that we want to turn into reality. But then, of course, we are constantly innovating. We have a 3 to 5 year vision. That's the vision I talked about. But we are at the same time, our CTO, Jürgen Müller, and we also have later Thomas Wisowski talking, who's really thinking about what's coming 10 years from now. That's something we are at the same time, hundreds of people at SAP are focused on imagining what's life in 2030 and what does that mean for the role of SAP. So, but I'd say the most important thing to me is there is something at the essence of SAP that will always remain constant, and that's we will help the world run better.
Maybe a more HR-related question: is it beneficial to have a PhD for working at SAP?
Andre, stop me here if I don't give the correct HR answer. I have to say, I personally, I'm not a big believer in that any degree is good or bad. I think you should get the degree that you think is most beneficial to follow your passion, to learn what you think you want to learn. But when I hire personally, I make no difference. Do you have a PhD? Do you have, like me, an MBA from Stanford, or have you studied at the university around the corner? To me, it's really what I focus on is the person I meet, and then really the passion and dedication I see a person bringing to the job every day.
Yeah,
so.
And maybe to add there, we just announced, I think 2 weeks ago, a collaboration we are doing together with some other big companies in Germany, like VW, like Bayer, like T-Systems, like Microsoft, where we build together with School 42, which is a provider from France. We will build a new school here in Berlin, and in that school, for example, you don't need any kind of previous degree or certification in order to learn coding. It's basically about your skills, it's about your talent, and this is the main, or the main reason why you will be able to enroll in those programs. This is not the norm now at the moment. So in most universities and schools, you need an official degree or any kind of previous qualification. But I think working on that school, for example, really shows what Sebastian just said. I mean, that at the end of the day, it's about your passion and what you're good at, and that can mean you have a PhD, but it's not basically like a requirement in order to get a job at SAP. So I can fully agree to what Sebastian said.
But you will definitely not be alone with a PhD.
That's also true.
With awesome research talent, with PhD or without PhD. And of course, I mean, for example, I mean, we are working closely with the Hasso-Plattner Institute, with the HPI, which is a very research-driven fund. So there is a strong research heritage at SAP that we are very proud of. I just say the degree to me is less important than the skills and passion you bring to SAP.
Good. I have one question I received beforehand, so I would also like to ask you that question. The story of SAP sounds like a constant success story. Did anything ever go wrong in the last 50 years? So were there any kind of hiccups or?
Look, I think, I mean, I'll be brutally honest here. We are a company with 100,000 employees. We are active in 180 countries. There is something going wrong every day. So, and I think that's also what makes it truly interesting, right? That in my job, for example, there are many challenges we are working on, and there are many things going wrong, and that's just okay. I think if things wouldn't go wrong, if we wouldn't try to develop new applications, new innovations, and allow them to fail, I mean, we would fail as a company. I'm 100% certain. So there are things going wrong. There are also, you know, markets where we used to lead and where companies have really taken a more edgy position and are growing faster than us. And then it's really about on us as a company to think, okay, where do we really play? Where do we want to win? and how do we create a culture that allows for failure, that allows for people to make experiments, and that actually encourages to be proud of failure. So I was, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had our, what we call our portfolio review, where we look at all the innovations we are trying to bring to market right now. And then we have a very open discussion up to the CEO to say, okay, what's working, what's not working? Where do we still see potential for success, and where do we think we should stop? And even for the team, or especially for the teams where we stop, I think that's something to be proud of as well, because we've tried something new, and even if it doesn't work, then the next day you can start something that's maybe even bigger, that's maybe even more exciting innovation. So I'd say every day at SAP things go wrong, and I'm as proud of the things that go wrong than about the things that go right, because I think that's really a really critical part of the culture of SAP today.
Good. Maybe 2 more questions. One, which I found really interesting. What's the most annoying thing about working at SAP? So you mentioned a lot of good things. So is there anything where you say this is really annoying?
Oh, wow. That's a toughie. I think, look, I mean, working at a big company always has some toll. I mean, it has the upside of the amazing impact we as a company can create on the world, but it also comes, of course, with, I mean, a certain number of emails you get every day and some processes you have to follow. But I have to say, while these can be sometimes annoying, I feel we are really reinventing ourselves right now, also to be much more dynamic. And so I have to say there's really not much that's annoying. That there's nothing specific that really sticks out to me. So I'm a pretty happy camper at SAP.
Okay, and then maybe the last one, because we are at the end of the time. What do you personally do to make the world a better place?
I've been thinking about this a lot, because I think it's so easy to blame everything on politics and on companies, but in the end, and I found that super powerful. I talked to a friend who's one of the leading researchers in Germany on how to act on climate change, and what he said is, look, if all of us, the end consumers in this world, in the end pay often 1 or 2%, maybe 5% more on stuff, we could probably tackle the sustainability challenge as a whole. So what I do personally, I try to go to bike with my bike to work. I try to actually not fly away for unnecessarily, neither for business travel nor for private travel. So my wife and I, we live in Munich, so we can also, I think going to the mountains in Germany is as nice as going to the mountains somewhere else in the world. I try to eat less meat, and I really think that, to me, and I know, look, there are things I also don't do right, so I still eat meat, but I think really starting with oneself is something that's super important, and I fail more probably than I succeed, but to just be aware and try to make a personal impact has always been important to me. It's actually a small anecdote. When I was 5, my biggest comic hero was Captain Planet. I'm not sure if anybody knows Captain Planet, but he tries to save the world by removing rubbish. So, and I think really that's something we don't talk enough about, is the personal impact all of us can have. And then, of course, I mean, and that's a key reason I joined SAP, is that also here through my work, I can make an amazing impact. Discussing with our leadership team, do we do enough in terms of our own pledge? And then even more, do we do enough to really leave a lasting impact on our customers through our sustainability solutions, to help them really tackle their challenges to go to a more sustainable future?
With that, we're at the end of the time. So Sebastian, thank you very much. There are quite a few questions which we were not able to answer. we would do it in the way that each of the question will be answered in a written format. You will basically have access to the recording afterwards. So please use the social media channels Sebastian mentioned. So we will advertise once the recordings are available. Give us a few days, I mean, to make them look nice and so that they can be used. And in that, we will basically provide you an answer to your questions, which we didn't cover today. And with that, again, Sebastian, thank you from my side, from our side, for taking the time. I think it was really interesting. I think a lot of input for young people, you know, looking at SAP from different views and maybe thinking about SAP as a potential company to work for. And for all of you, I wish you a nice day, and please take a look at the agenda for today. There are a lot of sessions where some of the questions you asked are answered in a very specific way. And if you haven't signed up yet, please do so. The colleagues will be more than happy to have you on that individual calls. And with that, we're at the end of the time, and I wish you all a good day. And you see the poll now to give some feedback. And yeah, have a nice day, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.